Welcome to the Future of Work Live. Hosted by Mark Salisbury, author of the new book, Socrates Digital for Learning and Problem Solving. Each 25-minute episode with Mark and his guests prepares you for the upcoming new world of work.
Welcome to the Future of Work Live. I'm Mark Salisbury, your host. Today, the topic will be the opportunity and challenge of big data. We're trying out a new informational format where the viewers can ask questions at the end of the episode, so stay tuned. Today's episode is based on the introduction from my new book, Socrates Digital for Learning and Problem Solving. Spoiler alert, one way to address the opportunity and challenge for human learning and problem solving is through computer-based Socratic problem solving. And we just happen to have an expert on computer-based Socratic problem solving. My guest today is going to be Socrates Digital. So let's go and bring him on. Well, welcome to the show.
I'm glad to be here. Before we get started, I have some concerns about this animation. In your book, I'm not a cartoon character, but rather an unseen computer persona that guides users through a problem-solving process.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and I thought having you as an avatar would make the episode.
Perhaps if you paid more attention to the details of my appearance. I mean, the outfit you have me in looks like some kind of Roman tunic. And why the British accent?
Well, I was trying to say, I'm sorry about that. I only had a limited budget for the show. And can you tell us what computer-based Socratic problem solving is?
Well, I provide a process to keep problem solvers on track, document the outcome of a problem-solving session, and share those results with the problem solvers and larger audiences.
So you don't solve the problem for your users?
No, like the human Socrates, I ask them the right questions so they can make sure that they examine the relevant data, use the correct concepts to analyze that data, uncover the assumptions they used for the analysis, and make informed conclusions and realize the implications of those conclusions. That's what the human Socrates did to help people solve problems over 2,500 years ago.
Since Socrates, a human, did this with other humans, it doesn't sound like a computer program's needed.
Probably not. However, unlike the human Socrates, I also assist problem solvers in combining evidence about their quality of reasoning and help them determine their overall confidence in the solution. I also capture, manage, and distribute this knowledge across organizations to improve problem solving. These are things that computer programs are good at.
With that introduction, let's go back to the problem that Socrates Digital can help with, and challenge of data. So thank you for being here, and we're going to go ahead and share the screen with a figure. So we'll go out here and grab this figure. And this figure, of course, is found in my book. And we'll share that so people can see it. And once we do, there it is. And this figure is called, basically, it's the opportunity and challenge of big data. And it shows the history of our ability to learn and problem solve with data and information. Now, for those people who are listening to this as a podcast, there are two trend lines in this figure. One that is steadily increasing, showing the growth of big data, and another one that's relatively flat, showing that we're not getting smarter in our ability to make sense of all this new data. So, as that top trend line, labeled Data and Information Process, shows, by the 1960s, businesses use computers for a variety of data and information processing. The amount of data that we processed increased dramatically over the previous. While with commercial database systems coming online and memory devices improving, the amount of data that could be processed was now accelerating rapidly. When personal computers came along in the 1970s, The amount of data and information processed by computers is at an even faster rate. By the time the spreadsheet applications came on the scene in the 1980s, computers' amount of data and information, the amount that could be processed, really exploded. This trend can only be accelerated, is only being accelerated in the early 21st century with the advent of machine learning, business intelligence platforms, and the Internet of Things. That lower trend line labeled learning and problem solving with data and information shows that while the rate of data and information processing has been accelerating, our ability to learn and problem solve with that data and information has not kept up. To effectively use this data information for learning and problem solving, we need to change how we reason with data and information. It seems as if our computers are using new and smarter methods to process more data, but we are using the same old ways for solving problems that we used before the invention of computers. If we can improve our ability to learn and problem solve with data and information, we can more effectively address the complex problems that our world faces. All right, so that takes us to the recognizing that big data really is a relatively recent phenomenon that has emerged and basically started in the 20th century and the mid part of the 20th century and is powered by the expanding use of computer systems. But as computer systems process more and more information about the operations of government, companies, and nonprofits, massive amounts of data became available for analysis. This big data provided the newfound ability to discover and predict trends in many aspects of our lives as citizens, employees, and customers. However, the problem with big data is it's not heterogeneous. That is, it's not uniform. For example, data about investment opportunities may reside in many different applications, such as spreadsheets, databases, business intelligence platforms, and internet. And so, since this data comes from different applications, it will have been analyzed and processed with different methods. For example, data may be selected from a database with specific criteria to provide a subset of that larger data set. That's a database function. So data in a spreadsheet, though, may have undergone correlational analysis with other data in the spreadsheet. And furthermore, machine learning algorithms may have processed data in a business intelligence platform to identify what influences other data have in the larger data set. So, since data is coming from different applications, the data sets will be of different sizes. Some data sets perhaps will be hundreds of items, while others are thousands of items, and some may be millions of items. Not only are these data sets of different sizes, but they're also of different quality. In other words, some data sets might have a few errors in them, while others might have many errors or even have missing data. What all of this means is that we've come to a point where we have lots of big data that provides the opportunity for analysis, discovery, and innovation. But much of it is disparate data, not desperate data, but disparate. Okay, that is, it's available and comes from really in a lot of different forms. It's different in just a whole lot of ways. And so this new world of data brings the question, how can we optimally reason with this big and disparate data? The prevailing approach for analysis is to pre-process all the data into one giant heterogeneous data set. This pre-process approach is the most common approach used by business intelligence platforms. These attempts, of course, have had limited success. That's because we cannot reduce all the ways we represent our shared experiences into a single data set in real life. If we could do that, we could compile a universal data set that captured all knowledge as we know it and solve any problem we ever would encounter. This approach, of course, is not possible for many reasons. We tend to develop what we need to do is develop a new approach for computers to help us learn and problem solve with big and disparate data. Okay, so that takes us now to think about this problem solving in a different way. Then we need to think about how that way is going to look. And solve. We have to back up a little bit here. The problem solve that way that we do is that this is the way we learn to solve problems in school. We spent most of school gaining factual knowledge about various phenomena and their problems. As for solving problems, we learn to solve them by recalling the problems and their associated solutions. And then what we would do is match the problem we're facing with one of these that we've recalled and apply the associated solution of that problem to our facing. From the field of logic, we call this deductive reasoning. We apply a general rule to a problem in order to solve it. And so that's been our history. That's what we've learned in school. And I did this when I was taking calculus in college. While out for pizza one evening, my classmates and I challenged integral problems written on a. Well, it's been a long time, decades in fact, since I solved an integral, much less on a napkin. In the meantime, I have forgotten what class of problems the integrals can be used to solve. However, I did remember that the trick is to recognize if you're working on a problem that can be solved as an integral. That means if I've correctly identified the problem as an integral problem, then I'm practically done. All I have to do is put that pizza down and work through the steps for solving it on a napkin. So to this day, if you want me to solve an integral problem for you, just bring me the pizza and a napkin. Well, we carry this same perspective of learning and problem solving in our workplaces. When we train information on topics and their associated problems, hoping that they will absorb this. When a problem presents itself in the workplace, they retrieve as much information as possible to match it to a known problem that has a known solution. When our employees were in school, problem solving was the simple step of applying the solution they found, right, to the problem they were working on. Since applying the solution is seen as so simple, we really thought there was no need to actually teach it to anyone. So despite all of this, and despite our modest increases in our ability to solve problems, most of us to this day believe that the prerequisite for problem solving is really learning about the problem and the possible solutions. Furthermore, we believe that if we have enough knowledge about a problem, we can stand back and in our minds knit together a solution for it. For example, if we're looking at the opportunity to invest in a motel chain, we might learn about common ways to measure the financial health of a motel chain. We might learn about the occupancy rate, a measure of the percentage of total rooms rented, and the average daily rate, a measure of the average room price, and the revenue per available room, a measure of the average room price that includes vacant rooms. After learning about these concepts, after learning about these is we might try to apply them to the motel chain to determine if the investment will boost total revenue enough to pay back the investors. We might even use a computer to help us calculate the values of these measures. Moreover, if we live in the third decade of the 21st century, we might use a business intelligence platform to calculate those values. Then we might paste the results on a dashboard of one of these platforms for others to see. Now all the stakeholders in our organization can see the results in one place, right? And for each one of them, they can knit together an answer to whether they should invest in the motel chain. For many of us, we think that this is problem solving. It's learning about the problem and then discerning what to do about it. The work is in learning about the problem and possible solutions. The problem solving part is insignificant in comparison. And in fact, we think so little of it that even though we do not understand how we knit together these solutions in our heads, we consider it relatively simple compared to actually learning about the problem. So this is how we've been approaching problem solving. But problems now have become too complex to solve in the workplace without a concerted effort to follow some kind of problem solving process. And this problem solving process must be able to deal with big and disparate data. Furthermore, it must solve problems that do not have a rule to apply in solving them. This means it needs to be inductive. Furthermore, it must deal with ambiguity and help humans use informed judgment to build on previous steps and create new understanding. This introduction to computer-based Socratic problem solving as a better way to solve problems with big data takes us to the end of this episode. Now we're going to turn to our audience and see if there are any questions. So we're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to move over here to chat. I'm going to unshare though first. So we have all of this. We will go to chat and see if we've got questions. See, and this is the part where this is such a short show, a lot of people don't join. As a matter of fact, most people see this show as a recording. So there's no one in chat right now. So if I was really smart, I would have made up some pre-canned ones that made me look just really smart, but we don't have any right now. But what we do have is we have kind of the end of our program. And that is this is where I put in a plug or put in an advertisement or whatever you want to call it. And it's really about the services that my company provides. And so what I say is while my book describes the design and implementation of a Socrates Digital application, Socrates Digital is also a brand name of my company, Vitel Incorporated, for professional services offered to assist organizations in developing Socrates Digital applications and embracing them to improve problem solving. And so that takes us to the end of our episode here. And so I just want to invite you to join us and on our next episode where we talk about problem solving in the 21st century. We'll see you then.
You can find the Future of Work live episodes in video and podcast format on www.marksalisbury.com. Additionally, YouTube hosts the video episodes on the Future of Work channel, and Apple, Spotify, and Google host the podcasts.